most of us never have to deal with this as children, and these kids are dealing with it today.
For certain students, this has acted like a trigger for some of the trauma that they've had in the past.
These kids are dealing with stuff, nightly shootings, gunshots, parents arguing, custody battles, things that we never had to deal with or talk about, and so it is very stressful for them.
The words are in relation to the loss of 13-year-old Kei'Mani Latigue, and then tragically the area lost another teen to senseless violence in Joaquin Simmons. But the words don't just apply to one town or one school district. Unfortunately, there are all kinds of trauma playing out for our young people every day. It just may not make the headlines or lead the evening news. Hello again, great to have you with us for this week's Leading Edge. I'm your host, Jeff Smith. Listen, when we were growing up in the 70s and 80s, there was a heck of a lot of crap to sift through. Honestly, every era has its baggage, right? But I am continually reminded that I never had to go through a pandemic. I never saw my social outlets pulled right out from under me. And let's keep in mind, this generation is still dealing with the aftershock of COVID. So when it comes to trauma and processing it, are the kids allowing it to come to the surface? And for that matter, are the adults? I want to welcome in this week's guest. You saw him in the opening, but we do want to say hello again to Toledo Public Schools lead counselor in student support, Jeffrey Griffith. Also joining us, TPS school counselor Mariah Singleton. And we do have to say hello there on the floor today. Joining us, we are so glad to have with us TPS facility dog, Anna. Thank you all for being here. We appreciate it. We talked about it a little bit. You talked about it, the triggers. And Jeffrey, I wanted to start right there. We've heard that word used. And as horrific as these stories that have played out over the last few weeks and the last few years, talk to us a little bit about how to kind of delve into these episodes with kids, how to get at the heart of what brings about the trauma.
Well, the key thing is that all trauma is specific to the student. Mm-hmm. So what you have to do to deal with it is we have to try to empower our students so that they have some resiliency. And one thing that helps them with that would be to have them have some supports like adults and somebody that they can go to. So main thing is to let these students know that they have people that they can go to, whether it's a teacher, another student, just that they have somebody that they can go to. But the main thing is that we want them to know that when these triggers come up, that they can get through them. But again, it's something that it takes time, and you can't do it on your own. So that's why you reach out for the help from these adults or your peers.
How do you find out that the young people, and I even had one of my colleagues today say to me, Mariah, they said, these teachers, they go home with this on their shoulders and they can't just drop the baggage at the door. It goes home with them and the stresses that they're dealing with as well. But I'm curious, I mean, is it you go find the kids, you go find the triggers, or it finds you?
Many times it's going to find us, and many times it's unfortunately going to find those teachers in the classrooms. So many times teachers will help identify students that are struggling, whether it be acting out.
Is that a red flag?
That's definitely going to be a red flag when we have students that are struggling to be able to emotionally regulate themselves and they're acting out and having behaviors consistently in the classroom. That's a red flag that there's something going on and we need to dig a little bit deeper.
Okay, but is it something, obviously the teachers kind of make you aware of the fact, I'm noticing this, I'm noticing that. How open are the conversations? Walk me through an appointment. Walk me through getting that moment to actually talk to somebody. How do you break through?
Well, one way is with Anna. I mean, it seems like students, Anna's non-judgmental love. Mm-hmm. And so, they will open up. Sometimes I think Ms. Singleton will even, Anna thinks that something's wrong with you. Could you tell Anna what's wrong with you? So, just having a tool like that really helps out in the schools. But I think, the main thing with the trauma is, and you talk about teachers, a lot of times when a student will act out, like Ms. Singleton said, teachers will look at the behavior. Instead of them asking, why are you acting like that, it should be, what happened to you? What happened to you that caused you to act out like that? Look at it that way.
I want to talk more about Anna when we come back. We're going to take our first break, but as we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about how this has become kind of a situation, as I said, since I've been told both ways, and maybe I'll get your comments on this before we go to our first break, but I've been told a number of things that we hang our hat on the pandemic. We blame the pandemic, we blame COVID, and we hear a lot of times that some of the problems that existed that came to the surface during COVID were already there. Is that fair both ways, or do you see it one way or the other?
No, I think it's fair both ways. I think that, COVID definitely brought a lot of change, and it may have intensified some of the struggles and some of the mental health issues that a lot of our students were struggling with. It brought it to the surface. Being isolated from their peers really had a lot of our students struggling.
I'm curious if that has forced you guys to re-educate yourselves as you deal with these things. We'll talk about that. We'll talk more about the appointments with Anna, how that helps kids get through these triggers, these traumatic moments. We'll be back right after this. An important conversation once again here on Leading Edge. Glad you're with us. We're talking kids, trauma, and triggers. Jeffrey, I wanted to go, I kind of went to break talking a little bit about, I'm sorry, Hannah was moving the table.
Sorry.
I thought I was going to go. No, you're all good. Thank you for being here.
Okay.
I wanted to talk a little bit about the re-education of yourselves, because we talked about COVID, we talked about the experience, what these kids are experiencing versus what different generations did, and how have you had to learn on the go, on the fly?
Well, I think knowing your students, that's the main thing. So, talking to them, being part of the community, talking to their parents, just that relationship with them, that really helps out. And so that, knowing your students, that's the key.
Yeah. Can you talk about just for our audience, and I'm sure they're curious, and we don't want to we don't want to focus specifically on the Latigue situation, on the Simmons situation, but how tough, can you even say how tough of the last few weeks has this been?
Our kids, they've been working through it, but again, certain students, certain staff, it has really been tough. It's really been tough, and each day gets a little bit better, but then when certain events come up, triggers like we mentioned, like funerals or whatever, then it'll just, resurface, and hopefully we don't have to start from the beginning, scratch, but there will be some backslide, I'm sure. So
while in our minds, maybe even in the media's mind, we think, oh, this is part of the healing process, but it's actually, Mariah, it's a trigger. It brings all those feelings up again.
Yeah, it can, definitely.
Tell me a little bit about, from the standpoint, and Jeffrey alluded to it just a little bit. He said there needs to be that get back on the normal track. How do you go about doing that?
Well,
make things structured for the student?
Yeah, many students thrive in structured environments, right? So we want them to have a sense of normalcy. We want to allow them to grieve as they need to grieve, and we want to support them and give them a space to do that. But each person is different, each child is different, students grieve differently. So I think it just depends on the situation and on the student. So we have to give them a space, and then we have to get back and educate them. And as they need help or they need support, hopefully they reach out, or someone notices, or we reach out if we know that there's a particular student struggling.
I think it's important too to let the student, it has to be, they have to know that they're in a safe place.
Yeah.
So safe, supportive, compassionate, that's what our counselors and the staff, that's what we need to do to help our students out. They need that kind of thing.
I know facility dogs are an investment, right? It's the training that goes in, and talk about the vehicle that you have in this dog with the process.
Yes. So as we discussed,
You've
Anna,
got 2 of them, correct, within
yes,
the district?
The district has 2 facility dogs. Those were trained by the Ability Center. And yes, they're, our sponsor for Anna was Buckeye. So they sponsored her and the investment that was made. She is a vital role in what I do with students. Anna provides a sense of calming to those struggling with anxiety.
Come sit by the dog.
Absolutely.
Do you, I mean, is it have a conversation with the dog?
Absolutely. Whatever capacity that student wants to utilize her in, we take her into the classrooms. She sits in with me when I do one-on-one sessions with students. I run grief group. I run a resiliency group. She attends all of those things. Students interact with her. And when there's a crisis situation and someone is upset or they're struggling, Anna tends to seek that person out.
Yeah.
She quite literally has been trained, and she's very sensitive to someone who's upset or struggling. I mean, I've been in meetings and I've seen it for myself, even adults, even parents. She will go and lay at that person's feet if they're upset, if they're crying. She's very sensitive to that, and she just kind of works in that way.
Instinctive, huh?
Absolutely instinctive.
Jeffrey, in our final 30 seconds that we have, the importance of having tools like this.
Well, all you needed to do was go to Spring and see Anna in the library and a student on the floor with Anna, just, you know, petting her and just, you know, reassuring.
But that was cathartic for the child?
Right. And so, you know, just seeing the dogs at work with the students,
Yeah.
I mean, that's, you know, immeasurable. You can't put a money amount on that. You know, so the district has 2 facility dogs by the Ability Center. We have 3 therapy dogs. Also, the counselor at Woodward has a therapy dog. The difference is that it's her dog. She owns that dog, and she's had special training with that. There are other 2 therapy dogs in the district. One's at Riverside and one's at Raymer. And again, the difference is the staff members own those dogs, and they don't have as much training as a facility dog.
But make a difference nonetheless. Both of you, we appreciate it. The work you do, the words you've shared with us here today, because we know it goes beyond the boundaries of Toledo, as we said at the beginning of this program. Thanks for being here.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
And Anna, thank you. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back. My next guest is a lifelong public servant who has led with courage and compassion, and he's now facing one of his tougher battles, cancer. But, as always, he's meeting it head on with strength, faith, and heart. I want to say hello to Brian Byrd for joining us here on Leading Edge. Good to see you, my friend.
Thank you for having me.
I want to be completely truthful with everybody.
Yes.
I reached out to Brian a few months ago because I was interested in CCW classes for my wife and myself. So we got into a conversation. You've been training out in Maumee for quite some time, yes?
Yes. Yes.
So he and I get into this conversation, and you opened up to me, and I didn't tell a soul about that, but I thought the time has passed. I reached out to you again, and I said, let's come on and talk about cancer.
Yes.
And what you faced, what the struggle has been, and just kind of take me back to finding out.
Found out from a routine doctor's appointment. So men, go to your doctor's appointments.
Yeah. Just a checkup?
Yeah, literally. It was a routine checkup with my primary care doc, and they did some blood work, and a couple days after that, they gave me a call and said that I needed to come back because of some abnormal lab values. And that's when I found out.
Something you had never heard before?
I've had high blood pressure in the past, but I haven't had that since like 2016.
Yeah.
So for somebody to say abnormal values for me it made me cringe a little bit.
Yeah.
And I had no idea what it was, but it turned out to be the PSA.
You said something to me on the phone. You said, this was a head scratcher for me because of how I've lived, right?
Yes.
I've tried to stay physically fit,
Yes.
eat well,
Yes.
things like that. But This chose you.
I've never smoked anything a day in my life.
Yeah.
My wife makes sure we eat reasonably healthy and work out and exercise. So
Yeah.
it really caught me off guard. I never expected this.
Talk to people about the type that you've been diagnosed with and,
Yes.
and where things are.
Right. My PSA elevated in under a year from less than 3, it was like 2.3, up to almost 10 in under a year. So that in itself was worrisome to me and even to the doctor. One of the exams they do in our office is a digital rectal exam, which a lot of men don't want to get, but we got to get over that, people. If you want to take care of yourself, it's something that you're going to need to get done.
Yeah. Had you had colonoscopies?
Yes, I get routine colonoscopies. I had routine physicals.
Yeah.
So this was an escalation in a short period of time.
Yeah.
And the primary care doc said that he noticed that there was some enlargement, so he referred me to a specialist over at UTMC. That turned into the diagnosis of an advanced and aggressive prostate cancer. And I didn't have just one tumor, I had 2 on my prostate. So he spent a lot of time explaining.
Now, for the layman, I hear that and I think, wow, right? And were you thinking the same thing, or did you say, Doc, talk me off the ledge right now?
Well, my wife was the one talking me off the ledge. But yeah, I held a lot of it in because in my mind it was just hard to wrap my head around what was going on because I knew how life-changing it could be. So when I met with the specialist numerous times, he laid out all of the options, and the option that was best for me was to get the surgery, a total prostatectomy, and he ended up doing that along with 28 lymph nodes that were taken out because the prostate has a capsule around it, and one of the tumors actually had the capsule bulging on one side near a lymph node. So because he wasn't certain whether or not it had spread to that lymph node, because some of the other testing processes only show a result if particles are over a certain size. So as a precaution, he took out that lymph node and all the other ones in that chain. So I'm grateful and blessed to have had a knowledgeable and aggressive surgeon that really took care of me.
And he gave you the option, right? As far as the aggressive, here's one course of action we can take.
Yes, he laid out several different courses of action, and we chose the surgery because that one was the most likely to be able to take care of it all the first time. And even if it doesn't the first time, which I'll find out in June when I go back for more blood work, that still leaves other options.
How recent was the procedure?
February 20th.
Okay.
So I went home with a catheter for a week and a drainage tube out of my side. So again, I got to give a shout out to my wife. She was a heck of a nursemaid for me at home. Once those came out, which was a week after I was discharged from the hospital, then it was just trying to get your strength back, and dealing with things like incontinence, which happens when you have your prostate removed.
You and I, in a conversation on the phone, you said, I think one of my goals to come on and talk with you, and I know you've made the plea to the camera a couple of times, but what are the other things that you can kind of point out, that you can tell guys out there as far as their own health is concerned? Because you said, I want to be a champion of people getting checked.
Yes. For 10 years, I was involved with the African American Male Wellness Initiative, and we talked about these things along with all other, I mean, if you can think of the health issue, we discussed it, we talked about it. We push for men to get their health screenings. That's what we need to do. You know, with men in general, there's this machismo thing. We don't like to admit our weaknesses. We need to start doing that because there are men who are dying unnecessarily because they won't go to the doctor until it's too late and they start showing symptoms. So with something like prostate cancer.
And do you think that's regardless of race? Do you think that's or do you see it specifically because in what your experience has been, do you see it a lot in the African American?
Well, for prostate cancer, 1 in 8 men generally are going to get it. In the African American community, it's 1 in 6.
Okay.
Part of that is a cultural thing. Some of it's historical and cultural that overlap. And they have a tendency to get diagnosed later, which then ends up with disparate mortality.
So what do you do from here on out? What are the next few weeks until June when you said you've got that blood work coming up? Any chemo, anything like that?
No. The doctor thinks he got it all. The blood work will determine whether or not there's anything left over.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, I'm just working on getting my strength back, gaining my weight back, and trying to get back to some normal sense of life.
How much did you lose?
27 pounds.
Okay.
And I did not have 27 pounds.
No.
So it's slowly coming back,
Yeah.
but
How do you feel?
pretty good. The energy level is slowly coming back up and coming out and doing things like this, so thank you.
Yeah,
Helps
absolutely.
my mental state because that was rough there for a while because I'm used to 150 miles an hour
Yeah.
and that's tough to go from that to not knowing what your next week or month is going to be.
Right. You still teaching the classes?
Yes, yes. I've got one coming up late April. And then I also do some contract work with the people who are just here.
Yeah.
I see Jeff over at the Ohio School Safety Task Force meetings. I'm still involved with some of that stuff. So I haven't totally stepped back from working.
Yeah.
Just what I do now is mostly on my terms.
It's so good to see you. And I so appreciate you being open and honest with us and sharing your story with us.
Yeah, men we gotta do better, men. We gotta do better.
Let's stick together.
Yes.
Good to see you, my friend.
Thank you much.
Absolutely. Great health to you going forward. We'll be back right after this. As we close out this week, I want to thank you for joining us and being a part of the show. Coming up next week, Leading Edge will be on the road, and we'll bring you a very special interview with a familiar name and face both around the state and the country. For all of us here at WTOL 11, have a great week. We'll see you next time on Leading Edge.